What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So Pokemon Legends Arceus released on Friday, and I've been curious how this game was going to sell because there's just one copy of the game. Well, we did get some initial results out of the UK, and well, they're looking pretty good so far. We'll go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a game that has leaked out online through the PlayStation Store listings, and it's of course bringing up a lot of conversation once again around Cyberpunk 2077, and we're also going to be talking about Nintendo Switch Online with the N64 expansion pack, as it looks like the community has once again fixed something for Nintendo. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Dying Light 2. It's out this week, and I'm looking forward to jumping into it. I enjoyed the first Dying Light, so I think this one's going to be a lot of fun as well. But there has been a lot of preview coverage and releases around gameplay videos and screenshots, all of this, as you'd expect for a marketing campaign. But one video popped up that I thought was kind of funny, and it might be a trend as we head through the rest of this year, depending if there are cross-generation releases. You can see this video, and it's titled, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, old gen console gameplay. In this, they show off the last gen systems, the PS4, the Xbox, all of this, just showing that the game itself does run, at least run, somewhat well. It's not going to be like the PS5 or the Xbox Series or a really nice PC, nothing there, but you at least will have a decent enough experience. And clearly this is them looking at what happened with Cyberpunk and going, we should probably at least show gameplay of some kind. We'll see what the actual results with frame rate, resolution, all of this is when Digital Foundry, I'm sure, gets their hands on the game. But I'm thinking we're going to see more and more developers and publishers do this after what happened with Cyberpunk, just to put it out there so people don't go, well, I wonder if they're hiding something. Also, we had heard rumors that Mortal Kombat 12 is currently in development, and there was an odd picture that appeared on social media. You can see this here. This was posted up by a NetherRealm developer, and it seems innocent enough. Okay, cool, here's a bunch of fun images and different things from the past for Mortal Kombat, but in the top right-hand corner of that image, there is something on the monitor that reads MK12 Masked. And then there's also an email that seems to mention that fans are like scraping the internet looking for any hints or any kind of tease around this next game, which, I mean, you see MK12, you see Masked, you assume that, okay, maybe he accidentally got a little bit of a shot of that monitor in the picture and they had to pull it down. I'm kind of thinking they cropped it just right, put it up there, and of course it's something that went viral online over the last few days because now people are talking about Mortal Kombat 12 and just gets the rumor mill moving along as they eventually work up to their big announcement for the next Mortal Kombat game. To me, I don't think this was an accident, but let me know what you think. Oh, and there have been a lot of questions around two games in particular, that being Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights, specifically if they would be coming out this year. We've seen delays around both games, but we can see this posted up, the CEO of Warner Media, where he says this strategy continues in 22 with a sense of urgency, launching HBO Max in many more countries this quarter and the balance of the year, launching CNN Plus, delivering a full slate of highly anticipated games, and there's Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights. I'm a little surprised we haven't heard much more about Gotham Knights, like in terms of a release date, but because there doesn't appear to be an E3 coming up, they could technically just release a trailer with a release date for that one at any time. I think Hogwarts Legacy is maybe something getting set up for Summer Games Fest, but at least it's been acknowledged here and seemingly still on track for this year, so we'll just have to wait and see on those. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokemon Legends Arceus. Came out on Friday, and I've been playing it quite a bit since release. It's a very addicting Pokemon game, and a lot of that has to do with the different lists you're filling out and just the exploration of the world and how everything flows together really nicely. Well, it does look like it's off to a fast start right now in the UK. This was posted up on Twitter by Christopher Dring saying, massive launch for Pokemon Legends Arceus in the UK. It's the fourth biggest Pokemon launch of all time, just ahead of Black and White and last year's Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. These are, of course, retail numbers only, does not include any digital sales. Christopher also has a list here for UK launches, with Sun and Moon being number one, then Sword and Shield, then Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, then Legends Arceus. Now, in terms of singular releases, this is the best-selling Pokemon game. You have to go all the way down to the number 9 spot for Pokemon Yellow. That's right, Legends Arceus is significantly above Pokemon Yellow, and we're comparing it to games that released 2 different versions, which I still think inflates sales overall. Now, on top of that list, it appears that Legends Arceus made up like 50% of the box sales in the UK, and it's a small sample size. We'll see how it did in Japan when compared to previous Pokemon releases, since we will have actual numbers that we can line up side by side. But think about this, we're comparing Legends Arceus to game releases that had 2 different games. Like, we're just kind of throwing them together and comparing them. So I do wonder if going forward, the Pokemon company will look at this and wonder if they really need 2 different versions of the game. Do most of us think at this time that they need 2 different versions of the game? No. I mean, before, back in the day when they had just cartridges, obviously they were trying to release them and then also sell a link cable, and they figured that would be the best way to make all of that work and, yes, inflate sales, but also promote the idea of people spreading it through word of mouth and making you get the other version of the game and all of this. But now with the internet being as tied into gaming now, it's very easy to trade back and forth anyway. I mean, with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, people figured out that it was just like a small text change in the file that then turned it into the other version. Most time there's just a couple of different Pokemon that are different, and that's sort of it. I think the better strategy now going forward for the Pokemon company with something even like Legends Arceus, singular versions of these games, and then just do DLC as they go along over the next couple of years. They did it with Sword and Shield, seemed to work out fine. You can even sell an expansion pass, as I'm sure they would be doing, to kind of just collect the money up front. I don't necessarily think we need 2 different versions anymore, but hey, if Legends Arceus goes out there and sells a ton of copies, one, the concept of this being a more open world, open-ended Pokemon game that focuses less on going into different battle screens and just having everything flow together nicely and being more action-oriented, that could take over in their mind as like the big Pokemon game. But then 2, we just get down to a single Pokemon game, and I think that would be better for pretty much everyone. But let me know what you think about that, because I'm sure there are people out there who do like to collect the different Pokemon games as they would get released, and maybe people prefer getting like a blue and a red or a sword and a shield. Next up, let's talk about a big game that has leaked out a bit early, and that's Cyberpunk 2077. I know you're thinking, that game's been out for over a year now. Kind of. I mean, it's been in its like alpha stages or early access for a little over a year now. Basically, the roadmap got thrown out the window when they realized there was a lot to fix with this game, and that's basically been what's been going on for the last year or so. It's just been hot fix after hot fix, bug fixes, patches, the whole thing. But it appears they're getting ready, finally, to release next-gen versions of these games, that being PS5, Xbox Series X, and I'm sure a very large patch for the PC as well. But this tweet was posted up. This was from PlayStation Game Size, Cyberpunk 2077, and PS5. Now, this is the PS5 native version that was spotted. Remember, we've been playing through backwards compatibility with the PS4 version. Yes, the PS5 gave significantly better frame rates and a much more playable experience, but the game was always designed, at least at that time, for those systems, the PS4 and the Xbox One. I really do wonder what would have happened if maybe Microsoft and Sony stepped back and said, you know what, we're not going to be able to release these new consoles this holiday. We'll put them out in the spring of 2021, or maybe just holiday 2021. We'll do a whole year delay for these games. Cyberpunk would have been in a really bad place, because at least with the Xbox Series X and the PS5, there was a way to play them well enough. Like, yeah, there were still bugs and issues that just completely broke the game when it came to progression. But like the Xbox One or even the base PS4, the game was like nearly unplayable. Like, frame rate was ridiculously low. You had people to the resolution where you couldn't even like recognize them at all. They looked like mashed potatoes almost. It was bad. So now I do wonder what exactly this PS5 version is going to change up. And I assume this is a free upgrade, how they're going to go about announcing and releasing it. See, because I kind of think they're going to treat this like it's a brand new release, a whole relaunch for Cyberpunk 2077, maybe some new content thrown in there, new features, ray tracing, the whole thing. And hopefully, after they do that, it won't break again completely. That's kind of where we are with this game. It's like, I almost expect large patches and bug fixes and then create more issues that they have to fix again, because they've been trying to fix this game for more than a year now. They really stopped talking about anything with multiplayer or any of that. So I guess we'll see here pretty soon. Seems like they're gearing up for a reveal maybe throughout February and potentially a late February or early March release. And yeah, I think they're also going to have new box arts and all of this stuff in stores for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. But my biggest question now, will you go back and try Cyberpunk 2077 if we get these, well, now they're current gen releases, and if they have new content or fixes, will that then bring you back to the game to take another shot? Next up, let's talk about that Nintendo Switch Online service with the expansion pack for those Nintendo 64 games. Nintendo has been improving it somewhat. They fixed like a graphical issue in Ocarina of Time and also managed to work out some of the input lag that people were experiencing. But there was an odd thing with this expansion pack release that has to do with the controller pack in the Nintendo 64. It's not actually supported at all, which is weird because Ghost Data for Mario Kart 64 uses the controller pack, and Winback needs it to save at all. Otherwise, you're just going to be using the suspend points and like the save states, essentially. Well, it looks like the community looked into this and actually managed to implement controller pack support for the online service. We can see this. This is posted up over on Twitter by Luigi Blood saying, for all the ones who are bored and likes to hack Nintendo 64 Switch Online, here's how to enable controller pack. In the config file for game, this should be how it's done with the string there, and then controller pack, which I was kind of laughing a bit about that. I'm like, really? It's just a line? Checked with MVG. He's like, yeah, that's kind of it. So I guess that's all it takes. As people started to go through, for example, Dr. 18 says it seems to work just fine saving the ghost data in Mario Kart 64. Now, the only issue here is when you restart the game, or even just, I guess, the Switch itself, that save data that was on the controller pack isn't there anymore. So it does appear that there's still some more work that would have to be done by Nintendo in the emulator they're using here to complete it, like completely support it. But the fact that just a line at least enables the ability to save and use or recognize a controller pack is something else. Also, I want to stress this is only something that can be done on a hacked or soft modded Switch for now. No retail Switch would be doing this. That's up to Nintendo to implement that themselves, maybe in an update, and they've at least been doing some stuff in the back end for that emulator, so I'm kind of thinking they'll have to, because I realized something. Quest 64 needs the controller pack. They're not going to be able to add that in easily without it. I mean, I guess they can tell you, hey, do what you do with Winback and just hit save, but like, what happens if you forget to in Quest 64? How much grinding is in that game just to power up your different moves? Also, I went back. I mean, here's a list of different games that will at least support the controller pack in some way. There's quite a few. I was a little surprised because I know I used it with Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That was a big one. But then I was going through and I'm like, wow, a lot of these games were, I mean, if you think about how many games are actually on the Nintendo 64, there's a pretty serious list here. So if you want to do something like Mystical Ninja, well, you would want a controller pack. So I do think Nintendo is going to add support for that at some point. It just seems to be taking them a while to fix it. It's Nintendo. They're going to Nintendo. So I wouldn't be shocked if one day we woke up and they're like, here's an update. Now the controller pack works. And here's Quest 64, just to round things out. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Ubisoft and good old NFTs. They're going to keep coming up. I've told you guys many, many times, this is something that will be in the news for a while now going forward when it comes to gaming, as it appears that several companies are at least working to implement them in some way, with Square Enix probably being the biggest one right now, because I see a lot of avenues they could be going with it when it comes to their current games like Final Fantasy XIV. But Ubisoft took a lot of backlash when it came to their Ubisoft Quartz system, that being tied into Ghost Recon. Well, it looks like they were expecting this, and they're to the point now where the reason that people are having this backlash towards them is because they don't understand it. Seriously, this was in an interview. We can see this posted up. I know Video Games Chronicles went through and grabbed some of the better quotes here, but this was in Australia with Finder, who had an interview with Ubisoft Strategic Innovations Lab VP Nicholas Poirard, saying, well, it was a reaction we were expecting, that having to do with the video getting crushed with dislikes. Good timing there, since you can't see the dislikes now, right? They go on to say, but Quartz is really just a first step that should lead to something bigger, something that will be more easily understood by our players. I think gamers don't get what a digital secondary market can bring to them. For now, because of the current situation and context of NFTs, gamers really believe it's first destroying the planet and second, just a tool for speculation. But what we at Ubisoft are seeing first is the end game. The end game is about giving players the opportunity to resell their items once they're finished with them, or they're finished playing the game itself. So it's really, for them, it's really beneficial, but they don't get it for now. So my biggest thing with this is Ubisoft is having that Skinner moment from The Simpsons, that meme that's going around where it's like, oh no, it's not me, it's the kids, or like they just don't get it, right? So I think at this time, they're just people who don't care to get it with NFTs. They don't really understand the benefit when it comes to games in general, because it's all tied into these skins and monetary benefit overall, not necessarily making the games themselves better. And my other part with this is Ubisoft really that concerned when it comes to creating these unique digital assets for true ownership, as they believe? Or is it really just about making money? Because if it was about true ownership by making these digital assets unique, why don't we talk about the digital games themselves that they're selling on their own platform on PC? Because that should be a big push, right? I mean, if they want us to have true ownership over these skins or pieces of clothing in games, you'd want the same thing for the game itself, unless that doesn't financially benefit them, since, well, they would then have their games that they normally have locked in digitally to have us buy and sell and trade them back and forth, which would probably cut into their bottom line. So that's my biggest thing here, is we kind of see through what Ubisoft is doing with these NFTs. It's not necessarily that not everyone understands them. It's that we understand that Ubisoft isn't doing it for the reasons they say here when it comes to true ownership or benefiting the players. It's all about that bottom line, and that we understand. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked what comes first in 2022, a Nintendo Direct or a Sony State of Play. Nintendo Direct has 64%, State of Play has 36%. This is a tough one because I think both events are going to happen in February. It really just comes down to which one's going to happen first or earlier in February. Like, I think one could happen in the second week, the other one in the third week. I think it's going to be that close. They won't be in the same week or anything, but I think both companies are going to try to lay out the rest or a good chunk of 2022. Nintendo most likely will at least run up to roughly E3, maybe a little after that. Sony might just say, okay, we're going to lay out the entirety of the year and talk about that PlayStation VR 2 a little more as well. But either way, I think February is going to be a pretty big month for news and gaming. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Spark, saying the news that broke my heart the most recently is the announcement of Sega's departure from the arcade business in Japan. Seeing them step away from arcades and have them all rebranded is really saddening. Yeah, they had already sold off, I think like 80 some odd percent a little over a year ago to, I think it's Genda. And then they just completed the rest of the sale, like the 15 or 20% the other day, officially exiting the arcade business, something they've been in for like 50 years. And a lot of this came down to the pandemic. And I mean, it's got to be hard running an arcade in that scenario, right? That climate, it's tough. And it's a shame because really arcades in general have just gone away. You can play the same games essentially at home, online, anytime. You just walk up to your TV, game console, and in a couple of minutes, you're playing against somebody else. But there was something about the arcade. I guess it's just the atmosphere, the rumors getting passed around about how to unlock Ermac or Reptile in Mortal Kombat, or just trying out a new game. Maybe it's where you discovered something like a Tekken. Again, it's unfortunate that that's kind of just been left to time at this point. But yeah, as advancements were made, it's less and less of a reason for people to go out to the arcade. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Pokemon Legends Arceus off to a fast start when it comes to sales in the UK? Do you think we should get to a point where they just release one version of the game going forward? And then also, what about Cyberpunk 2077 seemingly gearing up for a big relaunch of the game? Are you going to go back and give it another shot? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.